The NBA just came out and said Bron violated COVID protocols with a release party he was at. But his availability to play is apparently not in question. How do
Hey,
you
let
feel
me tell you
about that?
something. Hey, listen, I love Adam Silver. Rest in peace, David Stern, the best commissioner in sport. The NBA ain't got the balls to LeBron James. Zero. Listen, today, when I read that, I just, like sometimes you read stuff, you just start laughing. Hey, the NBA, they ain't got no chance of suspending LeBron James. Like if it was a nobody, they would put him in health and safety protocols. Ain't no way LeBron James is gonna be set out because of health and safety protocols. When I read that, I just started laughing. LeBron James is playing Sunday. Gary.
They were saying like the NBA has two set of rules. Damn right they got two set of rules, and they should. It's LeBron James. You feel me?
On Phoenix in the first round of the playoffs. The Warriors need to win tomorrow night, and now here we go. I have been looking forward to this all morning long. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Barkley and Stephen A. Smith get up with us together this morning after a night that lived up to the hype in every way. And Sir Charles, I will start with you. Your reaction last night, LeBron James versus Steph Curry. It was a night the NBA needed, and we got it in a big way. What was your number one takeaway?
Well, I thought it was a must-win for the Lakers, so they could avoid the Utah Jazz. It was a terrific game. I think you can see both of them, and that's no slight to the Phoenix Suns. It's just an easier matchup against Phoenix. So you see that both teams really wanted to win to avoid the Utah Jazz. That was my takeaway, but it was a terrific game.
Stephen A., how about LeBron knocking down that big shot?
It was luck. You know what? That wasn't Steph Curry shooting. That wasn't Damian Lillard shooting. That was LeBron James shooting. And even though he's improved his three-point shooting, that was luck. That was a Hail Mary. But when you're that great, you're entitled to luck, here and there. And that's what I thought we saw last night. I thought his performance in the first half was anemic. I thought Anthony Davis was even worse. But they both came alive in the second half. LeBron shot 6 of 10 from the field in the second half. And obviously, Anthony Davis showed up and showed out when it really, really counted. So I give a lot of credit where credit is due. They showed the heart of a champion and made sure to avoid the Utah Jazz, like Chuck just pointed out, because they didn't want that matchup. They're not ready for Utah as of yet.
Chuck, was it luck?
It was luck because the shot clock was running down. He had to shoot it. The shot clock was running down. But I will tell you this, Stephen A. is right. The Warriors outplayed the Lakers last night. That's why that game was so important to the Lakers, because they can't play like that and beat Utah. Now, Phoenix is much, and I live in Phoenix. It's just a much, you can play raggedy like they did last night, and you got a chance against the Suns. You can't play like they played last night. The Jazz would have beat them like a drum. So I thought it was a really big win for the Lakers, because this notion they just going to show up and win the championship. Anybody knows anything about basketball, you don't just show up and beat a really good team 4 times in a week. And I thought they were rusty last night. Stephen A. is 100% correct. And that's why they got really lucky to avoid the Jazz.
I will say this, Greeny. Listen, I think that Charles is right on the money. And I think there's a bigger reason you should take every word that Charles Barkley just said with the seriousness and the accuracy that it deserves. Because that whole soliloquy he just gave you was without the word guarantee. Because when he does that, he never gets it right. He never gets it right when he says guarantee.
Hey, Stephen A., let me tell you this one thing, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, as you say, I'm going to be blasphemous for a minute.
Okay.
If LeBron James can get this team to the championship, 3 straight rounds on the road in the West,
okay,
and then beat whoever comes out of the East,
yeah,
we're going to have a serious conversation after that, man, because
about
if he
what?
can win 3...
About what?
Well, first of all, I would move him past Kobe, because I got Kobe ranked 1 spot ahead of LeBron on my all-time list.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's able to, listen, this is fair. If he's able to win 3 straight series on the road in the West, and he's able to beat the Brooklyn Nets, we might have to have a real conversation about the GOAT. We might have to have that.
You see, First Take hasn't started yet, and I usually save, these kind of diatribes for somebody like a Max Kellerman because he has no business talking about basketball. He shouldn't even be allowed to talk basketball. But in your case, obviously, I can't say such a thing for one of the greatest players of all time. Here's what I will say to you. I already have LeBron past Kobe because there's an all-around. I think LeBron is the greatest small forward in the history of basketball, and he brings such a multitude of dimensions to the equation. The fact that, even though he's got one ring less than Kobe, considering what we've seen LeBron do, I've got LeBron number 2 all time. I will say this, though. When we talk about him compared to Michael Jordan, there is such a thing called an assassin's mentality. I can take those first 8 years of LeBron James' career, those first 7, 8 years, and that's what I would use to hold against him in terms of the all-time GOAT. Because what he has ultimately developed, it took him all of that time to do, whereas MJ came into the league with that mentality. He just didn't have the personnel to go along with him, with Scottie Pippen catching migraines in Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? So I can't look at LeBron and a performance against the Dallas Mavericks. I can't look at LeBron and 6 NBA Finals losses on his resume and say, excuse me, I'm just going to ignore all of that and give him GOAT status, greatest of all time, over Michael Jordan. And that blasphemy you just uttered out of that mouth with those goggle spiano glasses that you're wearing, I can't believe that you can't see the hideous nature of your words. I'm going to give you a chance to correct yourself right now, Chuck. Right now.
I'm going to correct myself. If LeBron James is able to beat the Phoenix Suns, I don't even know who they play, whoever they play in the second round, beat the Utah Jazz or the Clippers, get to the finals, and if he's able to beat the Brooklyn Nets, first of all, I got Milwaukee winning the East. But if he's able to win the championship this year, I think we got to have a serious conversation.
Now, Greeny, I would like to remind you, and don't just bring up your cup and sit back and kick up your fly shoes, Greeny. Listen to what he's saying here. So we got a Phoenix Suns team that's got my coach of the year, that's got an MVP candidate in Chris Paul, no doubt. Devin Booker's a star, but they're a relatively young team that Chuck has already conceded, can be beat by these Lakers because it's an easier matchup for the Lakers than Utah. We got that going on. We look at the Utah Jazz. As formidable as they are, as exceptionally well coached as they are, they just got bounced out in the first round last year. They've got something to prove, so they're relatively young. We look at, Mr. Load Management himself and Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers, who've never even made it to a conference finals in franchise history. We look at the Dallas Mavericks. Kristaps Porzingis can't stay healthy. A feather touches him, and he's on the injured list. We've got Denver that no longer has Jamal Murray. You've got Portland that's a relatively guard-oriented team. They've got talent, but we all know that some things missing. Don't get me started with Nurkic's defense, even though he's formidable offensively. And we got Steph Curry without Klay Thompson. That's the West that you're talking about, okay? And then the Eastern Conference, Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant have played 8 games together. We know how formidable they are offensively, but defensively, they put you to shame, Charles Barkley. They ain't think about playing no damn defense. And you're trying to tell me that if LeBron gets through all of that, that puts him above Michael Jordan? Are you nuts?
I didn't say put him above. I said we need to have a serious conversation about it.
What we got to talk for? What we got to talk for?
Hey, he's got to, listen, he's going through a gauntlet. They're going to play all those series on the road. They're going to play every series on the road.
Really? Oh, you mean on the road with 50% capacity in the audience? You mean that? You mean that road, that road environment?
Hey, listen, and let me say this. If LeBron is able to beat, like I say, I'm picking Milwaukee in the East. I want to make that clear. But if LeBron is able to beat KD, James Harden, and Kyrie, that would be impressive, Stephen A. That would be impressive.
It would be impressive. I'll give that to you. But again, it's not going to elevate him to GOAT status. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying.
I did not. Hey, listen, first of all, I said we need to rethink and have a serious conversation about that.
Can I ask you this question, Greeny? Let me step in. I'm sorry to be mediator here, but I got to ask Chuck this because I can't let him get away with this. Chuck, I've religiously brought this up with Isaiah, with you, with MJ and others. Magic too. When are we going to remind ourselves of the appreciation we need to have about the level of competition guys like yourself had to go against compared to today's game? It's soft as putty. You've religiously pointed out how soft the game is called. You can get called for a foul for having bad breath, for crying out loud. Lord knows how many games Dennis Rodman would have fouled out of with today's rules, with the antics that he engaged in. The level of softness in today's game compared to how y'all played. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about how the game is called. How do we ignore that?
Well, first of all, I think, listen, you can only knock the people down who are in front of you. Listen, I'm telling you this. If he's able to beat the Suns on the road, that would be a big, I mean, obviously the Lakers are going to be favored, but I don't think they're going to beat Utah, and I don't know if they're going to beat the Clippers. And let me tell you something. If they can beat the Brooklyn Nets, that would be impressive. They got probably the three best one-on-one players in the game to date. Those three guys, they are the three best one-on-one players in the world probably. And if they're able to beat those guys, you got to give them guys their credit, especially that at LeBron's age, AD's, you talk about can't stay healthy. What about AD? I mean, so LeBron, if he's able to win the championship, listen, I'm not going to put anybody above Michael Jordan.
Okay.
But I tell you what, I can see how people would do it is my point, Stephen A.
Let me hold this thought a minute here, guys. And let me just very quickly say, LeBron's path, he may wind up having to beat on his way to a championship Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. That's 7 players who will wind up in the Hall of Fame.
So?
That would be a pretty good run.